So in this video, I'm going to be talking about some sources of energy such as hydroelectric, coal, nuclear fission, wind, solar, tidal, biomass, and geothermal energy. I'm also going to be talking about renewable versus non-renewable energy, as well as peak, mid, and base load. So to start off, we'll be talking about hydroelectric energy, which is a renewable energy source. So how does hydroelectric power work? Well, first the water flows through a pipe or penstock, then pushes against and turns blades in a turbine to spin a generator to produce electricity, which is then directed to the transformer to send electricity to the power lines, and then the water that pushes the turbine will just be discharged. Then we have coal, which is a non-renewable source of energy. So how coal works is that the coal is being transported to a boiler or furnace, which is then burned to produce heat. And the heat is used to boil the water that goes through the pipe in the furnace to make them into steam. The water that is evaporated into steam is then transported to the turbine, where the steam then spins the turbine and generates electricity. Next up, we got nuclear fission, which is a non-renewable resource. The way nuclear fission generates energy is by colliding neutrons with uranium atoms and splitting it, which causes it to release a large amount of energy in the form of heat and radiation. And that radiation is then transported to burn the water that is going through a pipe, and the water turns into steam, which is then used to spin the turbine and generate electricity. And then we have wind energy, which is a renewable source of energy. The way wind turbines work is real simple. Wind turns the propeller-like blades of a turbine around a rotor, which spins a generator, which creates electricity. So next up, we got solar energy, which is a renewable resource. The way solar energy is produced is by solar technologies that convert sunlight into electrical energy, either through photovoltaic PV panels or through mirrors that concentrate solar radiation. This energy can be used to generate electricity or be stored in batteries or thermal storage. Then we have tidal energy, which is a renewable resource. Tidal energy works like a wind turbine, but instead of wind, it's the flow of water that turns the turbine. The turbine is connected to a gearbox that turns a generator, creating electricity. And then we have biomass energy, which is renewable energy. The way biomass energy works is that most electricity generated from biomass is produced by direct combustion. Biomass is burned in a boiler to produce high-pressure steam. The steam flows over a series of turbine blades, causing them to rotate. The rotation of the turbine drives a generator, producing electricity. And last, we have geothermal energy, which is a renewable resource. Geothermal power plants use steam to produce electricity. The steam comes from reservoirs of hot water found a few miles or more below the Earth's surface. The steam rotates a turbine that activates a generator, which produces electricity. Now I will explain renewable versus non-renewable. So what is the difference? Well, the difference between the two types of resources is that renewable resources can naturally replenish themselves, while non-renewable resources cannot. This means that non-renewable resources are limited in supplies and cannot be used sustainably. At last, I will be explaining the peak, mid, and base load. Peak, mid, and base load is also known as peak demand or peak load contribution. It is typically a shorter period when electricity is in high demand. The mid is when the electricity demand is medium, and base load, on the other hand, is the medium amount of electricity demand needed over 24 hours. The higher the demand, the more you have to pay when you're using the electricity in that time, and vice versa. When it's base load, you don't have to pay as much when you're using electricity during that time.